Welcome to the Empower Me Show with Pam Bright. This show is all about honoring you as a spiritual being, having a human experience. You are here for a reason, and it's no mistake that you are here on Earth right now. Spirit has guided you to this very moment in time, so you could hear the messages Pam is about to share with you. She is a multidimensional healer, light language channel, transformation coach, wife and mother, committed to helping you discover the tools and practices to empower you to live the best life you can. You get to choose the spirit path you take. You can connect to the spiritual guidance already all around you. Get ready to live a fully empowered life. This is the Empower Me Show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Empower Me Show. I am Pam Bright. I'm your hostess for this program. We've been going strong for a few years now, and I'm so excited that you have tuned in, whether it's your first time or you've been with me since the beginning. Thank you for continuing to show up and finding us here on Transformation Talk Radio. I am so grateful that we get to have another hour together to really deep dive into who we are as spiritual beings having human experiences. And I am here with two lovely wisdom showers, way showers, light workers, really diving into who we are on the geometric scale of life. Scientists, probably a little bit of that in there too. Gail and Gregory Hoag, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here. I love your mobile there that you have. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Sacred geometry is really a deep dive science in the way that the world is created. And it's quite fascinating to explore. There's a lot to it. I've just done a little tiny bit in my studies, but I do know that it's a very, very deep well of knowledge that the Hoags have taken, for most of your life
Yeah.
learning, right?
40 years.
Yeah, I was going to say 30 or 40 years. So we can't wait to hear about this amazing work that you have really dedicated your lives to. Before we get started with that, I'm going to do what I like to call grounding and centering. It's really important, I think, for all of us to bring all of us home into where we live in our bodies, because our bodies are how we navigate the world and figure out how to live and what we want to experience in this life. But we've got to be inside of our human selves. So we gather our parts back to us, right? From every part of our lives that we've experienced in this lifetime. And if you are a person that believes in multiple lifetimes, parallel lifetimes, past lifetimes, and future lifetimes, then we want to bring all of us to the here and now. And so I do that through using what we call bright language in my language, the language that comes through me, and it connects to the star systems and the light of God. So we're going to do that, and I'm going to just connect us into our spiritual nature. So if you are in a place where you can close your eyes, go ahead and do that. It sends a signal to your body system that it's time to center and hone in on what's most important to you as a human being. And listen to your breath. Listen how it naturally knows how to function. It's just one part of this amazing system called human being. Every part of this system knows how to function without a conscious thought. And in 2024, many of us are learning that we can consciously have conversations with different parts of our body, our consciousness, our minds, our emotions, even parts of ourselves that have passed as far as our child selves and our teenage selves and our young adult selves, our adults and our elders. We get to bring all of it into now. So as you focus on your breathing, connect in with what we get to be on, how we get to live on this Mother Earth. And connect in with this being called Gaia. She is considered, I thought of this the other day, like the soul of the earth. Her personality, if you want to connect in with the personality of human, it's like the essence of who Earth is. So connect in with her essence now. And just bring your focus downward as if you were able to see within the earth. Some of you are seers, you can see what's there. Bring your focus there and feel that energy coming up from her through your feet, into your legs and into your torso, your whole body, your arms and your fingers. Ela setarat nesuna zeianei. O nazanaye hinaya sundaya uye. O nazadehia hina. Elahia mei. Unazanei. And as you're experiencing this earth energy, see the waters. There's some waters behind me and this beautiful whale there. Just bring that consciousness into the oceans and the rivers and the streams, allowing that oceanic energy to enter into you too. Elazate utasena sahide munoyesi. And then we connect in with the star systems and ask the stars and the planets, the Milky Way, the great central sun, all of the beings of light that want to come in with us. And your personal spirit guides, teachers, and angels that you work with, invite them in too. We're just going to have a little party here, a spiritual party in the next hour. So invite them in. Elasuna mayite anamakia tutuna esena mayeki. Shonde sanamaneke usonomamnesa undeda matekei. Eyundu unsena mayeke rabaya tutea sanamaye tukuna aya. And with a nice deep breath, start bringing yourself back in, move your body a little bit, and come back in and open your eyes. Welcome back. We do this every time that this show comes on. I think it's really important. I've been told it's really important to do this kind of thing for us so that we can remember on a soul level who we are. So welcome to the show, both of you. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And that was
Yes,
wonderful.
yes.
I just love that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Hopefully you feel a little bit more centered and grounded
Yes.
in this moment. So what I like to do on this show when I have special guests on, like you, is to find out kind of a backstory of where did you come from with this? Did you both just, this is who we are, and then we just naturally gravitated towards each other, and here we are now? Or is there like a weaving of your histories together, and then this emerged? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, we do have our own individual stories and then our collective stories. So for me, it started really when I was about 3 years old. And I had an epiphany, it's like the light went off and I just realized that I was here for a purpose. I didn't have the words, but I remember I was so excited. I was outside playing, ran in to find my mother and said, Mom, I know why I'm here. She looked at me like I was a little nuts and said, yeah, that's nice, dear. And I told her at that point I wanted my middle name to be Joy. And I wasn't given a middle name. And but anyhow, that just sort of subsided, and it finds its right place at the right time. So that really got me into a whole nother space. And I used to love to look out at the stars. I always felt like I didn't quite belong here. I didn't know, how did I get dropped off on this particular street corner, because it didn't seem like it really nurtured my whole being. So the next really critical thing that happened to me was when I was about 19 or 20 and had a near-death experience. And at that point, I was going down this tunnel. I'd been ill. I was in the hospital. I wasn't recovering. And I was passing. And I saw myself going down this tunnel and went, whoa, I'm leaving. And at that point, I recognized that I had a choice. And I said to myself, you know what? There's more here for me than this. And with all of my energy, I pulled myself back into my body. And what was really extraordinary was, because before that, I had this big fear of death. And as I was just moving down this beautiful tunnel of light, it was like, oh, this was just beautiful. It wasn't anything to be fearful of. And so it changed my whole perspective about life and death and set me onto a spiritual path.
Interesting. So can I
Yeah.
ask you a question? So did you have total recall of that when you came out of that experience? Or was it like you consciously knew
Yes.
that you were dying?
Yes. I had full absolute recall.
Interesting.
I
Okay.
couldn't necessarily talk to everyone about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was right as anything you can imagine. And when I came back into my body, I started to recover. It was like there was this 180-degree turn. And from there, I had to figure out, what was this? What is this for me? What do I do with this big, experience? And so things like that take years and years really to
Mm-hmm.
pick the pieces and make some real thing out of it.
They
Um,
really do. Yeah.
yeah, they do. I was I was an artist, and I was, just really clued into the environment, what it looked like, light, color, how the different shapes in the universe were amazing. And I would be digging deeply into that. And I got into the work of Buckminster Fuller.
Mhm.
He is that genius who created the geodesic dome. He wrote many books, and he touched my psyche in many ways. And he also was the first one that clued me into geometry. The tetrahedron was something he talked a lot about, the three-dimensional triangle, understanding how energy. He really led me into wanting to understand, and more deeply through his work understand, that energy comes in very precise ways into this physical world. And so I got more and more excited about his work and delving more into it. And that really stuck with me. I'd been living back east in the early 80s, moved to Colorado, and Buckminster Fuller had recently passed. And at that point, with my spiritual work, I had been developing my capability to be a channel. And so I was doing that and just put it out to the universe, to his consciousness, and said, I'd love to learn more. And I'm here if you would like to teach me more. I'd sit in meditation and started to realize he was coming to me, and I was getting these amazing lessons about geometry. At that point, it was way over the top for me into, science and math and all kinds of stuff that I didn't have a background in. So I just said, look, either tone this down or send me someone that I can do something with this about. And it was probably within the next week or two that Greg and I found each other. And
Yes.
he was carrying around a box of these geometries that he had made with all
Wow.
these different tetrahedrons on it.
Wow.
So that clued me in at that point where I said, you must know the work of Buckminster Fuller. He hadn't, he had no clue.
Oh
And
my goodness,
so,
that's so exciting. I love how the creator, the universe, synchronicity, whatever you want to call that divine wisdom,
right,
our souls have a plan. Like, yes, we have free choice, but let's face it, we all have a plan here, right?
that's
And
right.
it everything lines up, even if we're not consciously aware of that. And it all lined up for you
It did.
so that you could then be available to have Greg come into your life. So Greg, do you might go by Greg or Gregory?
Gregory, thank you.
Gregory, okay. So tell us about this amazing world of sacred geometry that obviously you had already had for a while before you met your beloved.
Well, I did. And the reason was in college, when I graduated in 1970, I studied the sciences. And then during the next decade, I pursued spiritual enlightenment. And I studied with different masters. I was in different ashrams. And then in 1979 and 80, I built a pyramid with a friend that in today's dollars would cost, even though it was only 10 feet high, it would probably run about $250,000.
Mm.
And we took turns sleeping in it, and it set off my Kundalini, which is an energy flow coming up from the physical, from the earth, and it opens up each of the chakras in the body. And it was so powerful that it was literally burning holes in my hands and in my feet from the energy passing through my body. And after I got it calmed down a bit, which took years of work to keep my body from exploding from the extra energy,
Mm.
and I started communicating with higher dimensional consciousness. And that's where the geometries were coming from. They were
Mm.
showing me things to build. They were explaining things to me. Um, and that's what I was building and doing and working with when I bumped into Gail. And
Bumped into Gail. I love
well,
that.
it was literally a bump. I was going to visit my stuff in this garage. I had just sold the house. The person that bought the house was renting a room to Gail so that she could paint in it. And so her paintings were leaning against my table in the garage, and that's where we connected.
Wow.
And after we were together about a week, I realized that the year before, someone had given me a card, and it turns out Gail had made a couple of these cards with a picture of her painting, or one of her paintings taped onto the back side of this
Mm.
handmade card. And this woman said, "You need to meet this other woman." And so I stuck it in my wallet. It was the only card I had in my wallet. And a couple weeks after we were going together, I pulled it out and realized, this is you. And, so universe has backup plans for
Mhm.
us if we fail, especially sometimes I'm slow on the uptake. And so universe said, well, if we're not going to get you this way, we're going to take care of it another way. And that's what happened. And we've been working on sacred geometry ever since. And interestingly, it was only recently within the last year that we wrote our book. And what we did is we kind of reverse engineered a lot of the things we were told by spirit on how to work with sacred geometry and build the things we were building. So we figured out, oh, what are the underlying principles behind all of this that spirit is using to create tools to support people in their spiritual growth.
That's
And
perfect. That's perfect.
yes,
So that's actually what I wanted to ask you about. So this show is dedicated to opening up the tools, techniques, and tips for people on the spiritual journey. So for those who are like, I've heard of this thing called sacred geometry, but I really have no idea what it is. Oh, are those things that I'm seeing on the screen? Is that what they're meaning? And what all of that? So how, I know this may be a question that, I mean, there's multiple answers to this question, but how do we use sacred geometry in our lives in a way that can make sense? Like, I have a shirt on, guys, right? I have this visual here that I know of as, it's called the flower of life. Well, I had no clue at all what that even was, right? And then I did this workshop called the Melchizedek method. And I heard from there that, oh, well, this guy named Drunvalo Melchizedek actually created or was given this information for the flower of life. And I was like, huh, well, what's that? And so then I heard the story of this man who I don't remember now what his name is because he's passed, but he saw this flat surface, third dimensional flower of life as a hologram. And he said, well, it's expanded from this original piece. Now it's a holographic piece. What do we call that? Oh, we call that the hologram of love. And so he was given this whole other set of information on top of the flower of life information. So that's how I got introduced to this mastery wisdom of sacred geometry, but it's just a little tiny sliver. So for those that don't have a clue or like, I don't know where to begin or how do I even start? What can you tell them about this?
I like to, for the sake of how does this have a context that makes sense to us for beginners, I'd like to set a very general tone. And that is, and what you talk about is we are multidimensional beings. So everything starts out as just pure energy that has no form. It has no flavor. I mean, it just has potential of what it can be. And everything, we are energy. Everything in this universe is just pure energy. And most of that is non-physical. The physical aspect of it is just a fraction of what we really are experiencing. So this energy, in order to come into this physical dimension and create these amazing bodies that we have and this earth, this life, all of what we're experiencing here, it has to be very precise. It has to have certain rhythm and cycle and angle and form that can be replicated over and over again, but not replicated exactly the same. Everything has its very special, unique piece. Like, if you look at snowflakes, for instance, you know what a snowflake looks like, but every single snowflake is different. Every crystal, every rock, every human being, we are all a variation on a theme. And so that rhythm, cycle, precision, all of what creates form is what we relate to as sacred geometry. It gives this energy a pathway to present itself and come into form. And
That's
so,
helpful.
yeah, so if you think about it that way, it's like it's the route, it's the way that this can all happen. And so then Gregory likes to get more into the detail of what that is, how that actually happens. And, you know, something that I love about just the importance of sacred geometry helps us realize that we can look out of the universe and think, oh, it is so chaotic, it is so random, it's so crazy. And yet it is so organized, it's so precise, it's so amazing. And everything in universe, the way that it's organized, is held in consciousness. And that consciousness is love. And so
Mm.
when we sit with that and we get that and we realize who we are, then we can interact with life in a much more grounded and positive way.
I love that. I love that. So, what's occurring to me right now is the possibility of being able to take a certain shape. So, like taking any of those shapes that you have there, and I'm actually specifically seeing the triangle, and being able to do meditation and go right into the center of that triangle and receive information. Can you talk a little bit about that, Gregory? About, you said you connected to the higher dimensions. Can you tell us a little bit about how that process can happen when we use sacred geometric shapes to be able to receive higher wisdom?
Certainly. So first of all, it's important to understand, as we've been talking about, that we're multi-dimensional beings, which means that what you and I are relating to as far as physically looking at each other, this is only about 10% of who we truly are. And
Mm.
we exist on an emotional level, a mental level, psychological, spiritual, a very much larger aspect of our beingness. And the problem is that we're a lot like the tip of an iceberg, where that's the only thing you see, the iceberg sticking above the water. The majority is hidden. And
Mm.
so it is for human beings. And what we're able to do with sacred geometry, and when I say sacred geometry, and what Gail was talking about, is three-dimensional constructs, because we live in a three-dimensional world. When we look at something like the flower of life, that is really a two-dimensional, and the person you talked about that was trying to make it larger, more holographic, the truth is that form doesn't lend itself to going 3D as much as many other geometries that are reflective of the human body, the way plants are built, the way animals, the way the sun and the moon and the earth work together with certain numbers, certain ratios, certain diameters. And when we bring those aspects of creation into a geometry, it starts resonating next to us. And we start shifting our frequency because of those geometries that we're interacting with. If we know it well enough, we could potentially do a lot of it through our mind, our intent, because the two-dimensional forms are thought forms that the mind can activate through thought. But when you work three-dimensionally with a three-dimensional pyramid, you are creating something that starts to shift your frequency, just like going into nature, where the difference between being in the city, being in front of a computer with a lot of cement and rebar and stuff around you, to going from that to being next to a stream under a tree with the sun shining in your face, that feeling it opens us up so much more when we're in nature, because nature's doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
And we can bring in geometries. And we've been doing this for 40 years. We found ways to even create very small images where, let me show you in an image of what we're wearing around our necks, which are these pendants. And
Beautiful.
this is two sides of one pendant. It has a front side and a back side. And all those small patterns are actually different perspectives of a three-dimensional form.
Hmm.
And then inside the pendant, we have about 35 antenna systems, oscillating crystals, circuit boards, different kinds of metals and materials. And what we found is that we can shift a person's field by having them wear this. And it shifts the energy that comes into them. So it goes to a higher vibration, and it shifts the energy coming out of them. So that's at a higher vibration. For example, there was this one grandmother who said, "What I love about the pendant is that my grandkids used to run away from me when I came, and now they crawl all over me." It's it's because they were attracted to the energy.
Mhm.
And people notice that with pets and dogs. I mean, we have forms that work with electromagnetic fields. And we had this one couple that not only put it in their house to shift the energy in their house, which right away their mom came by and said, "Oh my God, it's so different in here. What have you done? I want to do that too." But they put one in their barn, and then they sent me a picture of all their horses trying to crowd under this geometry because they noticed the shift in the energy. They,
Interesting.
they could feel the higher connection. We have prison guards that tell us prisoners treat them much better when they're wearing their pendant.
Hmm.
And lawyers that put some of our tools, and we call this technology, we call them tools because it's like a hammer that you would use to build a house. But when you're done, you're the one that built the house, not the hammer.
Okay.
And so, tools can be very empowering,
Yes.
but they are always tools that as you become more adept at using them, at like a lot of what I'm sure you teach, Pam, is how to work with focus and intent, how
Mhm.
to trust and bring energy through your heart and open to the higher truth that you know. And so by doing these things and working with these tools, it fast tracks us on that path of higher connection, of
That's lovely.
being able to increase our intuition, being able to shift how we feel emotionally and physically, how, you know, manifesting things, it always happens from that higher vibrational place. And by working with these tools, it keeps us in that higher vibrational place. So things are happening more rapidly, kind of that serendipity that sometimes we go, "Oh, isn't it nice to have these coincidences in our life?" But really, when we're in that flow, it's not coincidence, it's the way things are meant to be.
Well,
We're meant to
it's
be.
alignment, isn't it?
Yeah. Be in
Alignment.
the
Yeah,
right place at the right time. And you know that universe is loving you and playing with you.
absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the tools that you have created for others who are seeking tools for their expansion.
Great. Well, to start with, these tools, as we were saying, they're all based on these sacred geometric principles, which is the way nature has organized itself. You know, it's also not so weird when we think about ancient cultures and how they built certain sacred sites, you know, cathedrals, temples, pyramids, all of that. They had a deep understanding of the importance of allowing people to have access to the higher dimensional qualities of who they are. And, you know, after the Industrial Revolution, you know, people used to live more on the land. And so they experienced more of that connection. However, since you know, so many people are living in cities, you know, together in such a space as Gregory was saying, it makes it really difficult to maintain those spiritual connections and have access to the flow of energy that Mother Earth has provided for us. And when that energy is not flowing, that's when there's illness. That's when people are feeling distraught, lonely, off kilter, you know, all kinds of things, and unable to really connect to their intuition, their higher guidance, their creativity, and the ability to relate, to create relationships that are really good quality relationships. So bringing people back into that flow again is really essential. And so what we've done, and Gregory's got something up on the screen here that he wants to show, but we've created different tools based on these creation principles. And some of the tools that we think are really important are, like we just showed you, the pendant. There's something that when Gregory was talking about these horses that were huddling underneath of this geometry, it's something called the 5G solution. A lot of people have been very concerned about all that electromagnetic frequency that is, you know, basically it interrupts the natural flow. It's not that that energy in and of itself is necessarily bad, but when it dominates and it no longer gives us that full band of vibrational energy that's out there, then we start being intoned with certain energies that kind of block us from everything else. So the 5G solution is an amazing one that, in fact, it was really fun that a number of years ago, this was back in 2013, there was a huge flood in our area that knocked out all the electricity. We live in the country, so we didn't get cell phone service anyhow. And for a number of months, we didn't have any of that stuff that was just like impinging on that wonderful natural flow. And then, of course, the energy came back on, which we needed to have. And when we created that 5G solution, Gregory turned it on and I went, oh, wow, this is what it felt like when we didn't have all of that happen. Now, you can't block that stuff, but what we focus on is creating connection, establishing connection for ourselves to be able to have all that's there and not be impinged upon by so much of the other stuff that tends to take our attention instead.
Absolutely.
So that's sort of like a little bit of the backstory. And Gregory's going to show you a little bit of why these geometries are so important and have so much to offer us.
Great.
Well, I was just going to show you this diagram, which there are 5 geometries, only 5 that all have equal faces, equal angles, and they're called the 5 Platonic solids. And if you add up the number of degrees on the surface of 3 of them, the top 3, and multiply it by 100, you get the exact diameter of the sun.
Wow.
Then when you take another set of 4, the tetrahedron, a cube is one of them, octahedron, icosahedron, you get the exact diameter of the Earth.
Huh.
The cube is equal to the diameter of the moon.
Wow.
And then you do things like, we found that if we take the diameter of the moon, add it to the diameter of the Earth, we get the number of degrees in this geometry to the right we call the sphere of health.
Huh.
And this geometry works with the phi ratio, which is in this picture how the human body is constructed. That means when you divide the length of the hand and then the wrist to the elbow, you get a particular number, 1.618. It keeps going. But all these different spirals that you see here, from galaxies to nautilus shells to
Mhm.
sunflower seeds, all of this is working with this phi ratio that I have this caliper here that shows how the first digit of my middle finger to my whole finger is in that relationship. My finger to my wrist is in that relationship.
Huh.
My hand to my elbow, and the moon and the Earth's diameter together, I said, created a form that's this form right here that works with this phi ratio, that
Wow.
works with the way the moon and the Earth dance together.
Hmm.
And then I can show you so many things with the sun and the moon and other aspects of creation where we bring it into a geometry. We find a way of projecting it into a flat surface by taking 3 different perspectives, like house plans on a flat surface that tell you how to build a 3-dimensional form. So
Hmm.
we're able to work with 3-dimensional geometry in our pendants and in other things we work with, as well as building these 3-dimensional forms that bring that resonance into our lives.
Wow.
So we
That's remarkable.
start vibrating with that same field. And
Hmm.
it's what's nice is it does the heavy lifting for you, which means now you can take off into your intuition where the doorway is more open. You
Mm-hmm.
can start with having a good day because you feel the energy of connection when you're wearing one of these tools or have them on around you. You under,
Absolutely.
you understand why you are alive. And
Mhm.
it's to really develop your gifts, because each one of us has so many unique gifts that we can develop for the good of all. Because bottom line, I think that's what we understand more and more once we start opening up to these higher energies. Oh my God, we are all connected. We are connected in love. And it's my opportunity to be of service to everyone to support them in their process of developing more and more of this energy on this planet so that we can all grow to a higher level of understanding.
I love that so much, Gregory. I really do. I mean, I resonate with that deeply,
Mm,
Mm,
deeply.
mm,
So here's the thing, guys. I'm like a no nonsense kind of person, okay? You're going to get the real deal when you tune into this show, right? So I'm going to feel things. I'm going to express it to you. You probably will see me cry sometimes. You'll see me moved. This is a moving moment. I know
mm,
the depth of this work. So if you resonate with this work, please, please, please connect to the Hoags because they are masters at what they're doing and what they're presenting. And on my understanding is on your website, you have tools for purchase
We do. We
for
do.
people.
Yeah, we have the pendants and different sacred geometry tools that we've been creating. We've certainly created newer things in the past number of years, but we started out many years ago. And what's interesting too, Pam, is that we really wanted to just listen to our guidance. And
Mm,
so we did, and we would do these things, and then we would find out. You could feel the energy. And then once
mhm.
we would feel the energy, then the question was, well, how can we make this something that will really support people? So
Yes.
that has truly been our pathway. So on our website, you can take a look at all that. And also on our website is a free chapter for our book. In January, we published the book, Sacred Geometry, the Universal Language of Divine Alignment. And when you go to iconnecttoall.com/chapter, and the website is the letter I, the word connect, the number 2, and the word all, ALL.com. And then you put in /chapter, and then you can get to read the first chapter. And the way we started the book out is by talking about consciousness.
Mm,
So start out with what is consciousness, and then we get into the dialogue of geometry through that foundation of talking about consciousness first.
I
That's our
love that. I love that. So that is your free gift, folks, and it's available to all. So I did put that in the advertisement for you. But again, if you want to know more, it's through their website and /chapter. So again, if you don't remember, or you're not able to recall it or write it down, connect in with Transformation Talk Radio or with me at brightbutterflynetwork.com and say, okay, tell me about that sacred geometry stuff. What do I get to have? And I'll tell you. So in the last few minutes, can you talk to us a little bit about the connection between sacred geometry, color, and color? What was I thinking? Color and sound.
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 Yes. How do those all go together? There's a weaving that happens.
Absolutely. So just as I showed you how geometries in degrees, when you add them up and you translate those same numbers into miles, you get the diameters of certain celestial bodies. Well, that's how sacred geometry works with the numbers. And you can create harmonic resonance between things that seem unrelated. So in sound, we're working with frequencies. You measure the number of frequencies per second in something called hertz. So when, for example, in our book, we talk about light. Light itself has a geometry. And curiously, that geometry is 4,320 degrees.
Mm,
Now, when you go into sound and you work with 432 as that resonant number in sound, and you make that hertz and make that middle A, then all the other notes start falling in place as one whole numbers, and many of them reflect sacred numbers that are found throughout the universe in other places.
mm,
So it's a way of aligning sound with light. And then when you think of light and that spectrum, light is only 0.035% of what we see with our eyes. The whole energetic spectrum goes far beyond that into radio and gamma waves, cosmic waves. and other aspects of energy. And so color is, again, a very small part of this large energy spectrum. And when you look at certain frequencies within that, you can find the colors that align with certain resonant frequencies, harmonics within the body that can be used for healing. And so I used to, at the beginning, put colors on some of our forms. We found it wasn't that important, but you can work directly with color. There's an important gentleman in the early 1900s, Dinshaw Gadielli, who did a lot of wonderful research around shining light, and you have to have the right light. It's difficult today because we've gone to certain frequencies with LEDs, which may not be the most healthy for the body. But when you work with sunlight and work with certain colors, shining it on the body, you can set up a certain frequency that aligns with everything in sacred geometry and healing.
It's just so fascinating. It's so fascinating. So one of the things that I have wanted to do for a while, and maybe we can talk more about this later, but I have wanted to connect sacred geometry, geometric shapes, and that study with the study of water, and also the study of the light language that I channel, because I think it would be fascinating. Bless you. To bring these things together, because I know how important it is for the planet to open to this next level of healing and awareness and multidimensionality that we are getting to experience. So we only have a few minutes left. It always goes so fast for me, these wonderful shows. Tell us what the most important message is that you would like to share with those that are listening. What's the most important thing that they need to hear?
You'll get two of these now.
So, getting back to frequency, everything is energy, and it's all based on the different vibrational energies, the frequencies. That's who we are. And there's so many different ways to support our frequency so that we can experience life fully, because we're multidimensional beings. We are souls that have incarnated into this body, that are looking for this vehicle that we have here in this dimension to be able to really implant that wonderful frequency of love. And so find your resonance, find your way of coming in sync with who you are at the highest level, and bring forth that love, bring forth that light that is who you are. And, sacred geometry is one of the best tools that I've come across to support human beings in being able to be in sync, in resonance with those higher dimensional frequencies.
That's wonderful. So, are you available for people to receive coaching or counseling or guidance from on an individual basis and also collectively?
We do. When people have questions, we'll help them in deciding what works best for them and
Great.
what their issues are and how to align with that. And, just to ride on what Gail was saying, what sacred geometry shows us is how perfectly the universe has been constructed, from the tiniest aspect of an atom to the largeness of the universe itself. And it's all interconnected through this divine perfection. And we are all part of that divine perfection. So it's important to really honor yourself for being the incredible being that you are, and learn to recognize that you're more than that character looking back in the mirror and something that really is here to light up the hearts of so many other individuals.
Oh, that's lovely. Okay, so for those that are listening, please, once again, tell us how to spell the whole name of your website so that we can connect there.
Okay, it's iconnecttoall.com. The
Perfect.
letter I, the word connect, the number 2, the word all, ALL.com. And you
Great.
can surf around. There's also videos, all kinds of stuff. We've done a lot of work over the years, and
That's perfect.
we'd love to share with you.
I love that. So we could talk for hours and hours and hours. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
we do need to wrap up, folks, but thank you so much for tuning in. And sometimes we do have breaks in shows, and sometimes it's going so well that we don't. This was one of those shows that we could have just kept on going for hours. However, we do need to end. So thank you for tuning in, everyone. If you want to connect in with me, you can go to brightbutterflynetwork.com. Find me there. Ask me any questions or set up a session or whatever you want. Or you can find me here at transformationtalkradio.com. And we are so happy that you tuned in, and we will be back next week. Probably not with a guest, but I will be bringing in lots of guidance for you. So tune in. Have a wonderful week. Many, many blessings. Remember that your life is up to you. Take it on with zest and with gratitude. Many blessings to you. Thank you so much, both of you, for coming. I will be in touch with you. You have much to teach me, so I can't wait to connect again. So thank you for coming. Thank you for coming, folks.
Thank you.
Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Empower Me Show with Pam Bright on Transformation Talk Radio. More about living a fully empowered life. Remember that your life is up to you, and you can choose the spiritual path you are on. There is spiritual energy and wisdom in everything and everyone around you. Listen carefully for what the universe is trying to tell you in every moment. You are already being guided along your journey. Call upon your spirit guides anytime you need help with anything. Know that you are safe in every moment, even if it seems that you are not. For more information about Pam Bright, visit brightbutterflyenterprises.com or email theempowermeshow@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening. We hope to see you next week.